Brian Kohlberger, who was responsible in Idaho for the deaths of 4 wonderful young souls, has made a plea bargain deal in order to avoid the death penalty. These were vicious murders with so many questions left unanswered. While life imprisonment is tough, it's certainly better than receiving the death penalty, but before sentencing, I hope the judge makes Kohlberger, at a minimum, explain why he did these horrible murders. There are no explanations. There is no nothing. People were shocked that he was able to plea bargain, but the judge should make him explain what happened. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Listen to Pavarotti.
You're no match for my brains.
You're that smart.
Let me put it this way. Have you ever heard of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates?
Yes?
Morons.
I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. Can I be your superhero?
Narcotics are trafficked from Arizona up through California and Oregon into the Seattle-Tacoma area. They are then trafficked across the I-90 corridor from Seattle and Tacoma to Spokane, Washington, where they stop because of an invisible barrier. This group is run by what's known as the Bryson Gill Cell. They are the Omerta group of the Aryan family of Washington State. That invisible barrier between Spokane, Washington and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is a line of territory. In Idaho, the Aryan Knights run the state. From there, the Knights traffic the narcotics first to Coeur d'Alene, then through Moscow, Idaho, down to Julietta, Idaho, and then finally to the home base in Boise. The Aryan Knights run Idaho. The Aryan family Omerta group run Washington, yet they are allied. They both take orders from their leaders in prison. The members and associates on the outside of the prison walls, however, are what are the gasoline that fuels this organization. It is believed at this time that 2 of the associates began to turn evidence for the OCD ETF task force that led to the arrest of one of their associates, followed by the major traffickers.
On October 19th, the 4 drug traffickers took a trip down to Arizona in late October 2022, while their phones were being tracked by the DEA. They left their stash house in Western Washington on October 18th, and they took the long way, bringing them right by Moscow through Pullman and eventually to Boise, where their phones were tracked on October 19th. In my opinion, they took this longer route so they could meet up with their Aryan Knights associates in Idaho.
October 18th, 2022. This would have been right after Farley here absconds from his furlough in Moscow, and exactly when this federal protection detail would be watching over Ben's home in Spokane. We now believe that this would have been the meeting between the Omerta group and the Aryan Knights in Boise that the leaders would sanction for the atrocity on King Road and put the plan into motion. Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the LIEDAHO4 case. And I wanted to get this video out to you before the sentencing hearing tomorrow because you need to know this information. I'm going to give you some information that will absolutely blow your head completely off your shoulders. So A lot of people have told me I need to be wearing a neck brace for my pain. If you're going to watch this video, you may want to invest in one as well so you don't lose your head. And I'm not playing around. I'm going to give you a definitive look at things that you don't know and things that they are trying to hide, and I will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt they're trying to hide it from you. And some of the things I'm going to point out in this video literally will blow your mind. What I'm going to do, because I had to show you the beginning, to go all the way back to the beginning of my investigation, to show you where we're at as of today. That was a huge find by TrueCrimeDesign. I missed it in the docks for the Aryan family. That trip to Boise on October 18th was a very, very important find. Great job, TrueCrimeDesign. I put the link to that video in the description of this video. The things that I'm going to go over with in this video, though, are the people that you had seen in the opening of this. Not the Aryan family guys. Those guys have already all been put away. But the other people that I have talked about many, many times, like Mr. Farley, Miss Rhodes, Mr. Burrows, Mead and Uppenauer. And I'll remind you how it all ties together as we go through this. But you've got to see where their cases are as of today. And I'm going to show you some things that have happened in their cases along the way, along with the Bryan Kohberger case. And it will answer almost every question you have on your mind about this case. Why does Bill Thompson stand up and yell at the defense expert, "You know that Bryan Kohberger wasn't stalking anyone"? Why would he do that if Bryan Kohberger was stalking and that's what they thought? Because they never thought that. Why does Bill Thompson stand up in the plea hearing and say there is no sexual anything in this case? And he goes as far as to say, just so that there's no speculation, there is nothing sexual involved in anything in this case. Everybody out there, their brains all melt down. That's got to be sexual. It's got to be sexual. Bill Thompson said he doesn't want you speculating. That's how non-sexual it was. So when you hear him say those things, some people's brains can't get around it. They just melt down. It's got to be sexual. It's got to be sexual. Garrett, Bricado, it's got a sexual warming up period. But no, what it truly is what it truly is. And that's what Thompson has never said, but he said it so many times in so many words. Prepare yourself. I'm about to prove everything that I've ever said. Let's roll.
I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. That there is no evidence there was any sexual component. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation.
Now here's who we are going to go through all of their case records and compare each and every one. And I think you will be amazed at what you see. We're going to start up here with Miss Rhodes, followed by Mr. Farley. Then we'll get into some very interesting things with Mr. Burrows, finishing up with Mead and Uppenauer, and of course, Mr. Kohberger, comparing it all the way through. Now, just a reminder on these three. All three of these folks had long history of prior felonies before the arrests that I'm going to disclose right here. So these were by no means their first time offenses. And we'll start with Ms. Rhodes. She was arrested for trafficking a pound of METH in September of 2022. That is a 10-year to life sentence if convicted, but they reduced her charges and gave her probation. Then, less than 2 years later, she was arrested once again while on probation for trafficking. She was arrested again for trafficking, this time 1.5 pounds of METH. And was in March of 2024. So even though she was still on probation for her first one, she was arrested again. And this case is pending, and we're going to take a look at it. Then we've got Mr. Burrows. Long history of prior felonies before arrest, including prison time for witness intimidation, among other things. And he was arrested along with Ms. Rhodes for trafficking 1.5 pounds of METH. He had Mary Jane, and he was also charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm, which should be an automatic 5 years. That was again in March of 2024, and that case is still pending as well. Then we've got Mr. Farley, Mr. Deal of the Century. Long history of prior felonies before arrest. Then in September of 2022, he was arrested with Ms. Rhodes up here for trafficking 1 pound of METH. He somehow got his charges reduced and received probation. Just a few months after that, in August of 2023, he was arrested in Washington State, once again for trafficking, this time over 300 pills of F. Somehow, Washington didn't go through with the charges, made an agreement with Idaho to send him back, and then Idaho just simply reinstated his probation. No prison time. That one just disappeared altogether. But then in April of 2024, he was not actually arrested for having paraphernalia. There's no arrest around it. They simply brought him in and revoked his probation for a paraphernalia charge that he was never arrested for. Just happened to be on the exact same date that Brian Kohberger posted his last alibi. And they put him in a protected unit in prison for a little over 8 months for that so-called arrest. Now, he's been out less than 2 months. We know, we've all reported on it. Yet, he's been arrested again, this time for 2 counts of possession of a controlled substance. And that case is currently pending. So I wanted everybody to be reminded of the charges and these 3 pending cases on these serious criminals with very long histories. Then we've got, of course, Mr. Meade and Mr. Uppenauer. Now, they were both arrested in March of 2024 for unaliving of a man named Monty. And they both busted out of the penitentiary to commit this unaliving, and then they committed another unaliving that they still haven't been charged with, and they were convicted of busting out of prison, and of course they have, prior felonies a mile long. And their case, though, is still pending for the unaliving of Mr. Monty. So just a refresher, now let's go to the case files. We're going to start with Ms. Rhodes. Now remember, she was arrested in 2024, and you can see now we're all the way up to July, almost August of 2025, and she still doesn't have a trial date set. So her last status conference was in March. Her next one is scheduled for August the 4th. So very interesting. No trial set on somebody that was found in possession of trafficking quantities of narcotics, and she was currently on probation for trafficking, yet they can't seem to get a trial set. Very interesting. But it's this one that'll get you. Let's go to Mr. Farley. And I'm going to show you some things that correlate so well that it's almost eerie. So we know that, as I just mentioned, Mr. Farley was arrested again less than a month after being released from the penitentiary in his protected unit. He was actually arrested on June 1st, 2025. You can see he was booked in on the 2nd, and that was for controlled substance possession, count 1, count 2, and paraphernalia, and that's 2 felonies and a misdemeanor. Now, what's interesting is the date that he was arrested on June 1st, it turns out is the most likely date that Brian Kohberger signed his plea agreement. As you can see right here, I pulled this from the doc, and this is the one that's dated the first day of, and it actually says June 2025, but they put a line through it and wrote July. You can bet that was June 1st, 2025. The day Brian Kohberger signed the plea deal was the exact same day that they arrested Farley. Very strange, isn't it? It doesn't stop there, though. We all know that on June 26, 2025, supposedly the motion to continue was denied by Judge Hippler. And that was the final nail in the coffin, they said, for Kohberger to make his plea deal. 6/26/25. This is going to become a very interesting date before I'm done. But when we go over here to Mr. Farley, you can see that on 6/26/25, that actually has some significance. That was the day he attended a preliminary hearing, and he waived his preliminary hearing, and he was bound over to district court. That is a big step in the process when you are bound over from the court to the district court. Now, it doesn't stop there. 6/26, 6/26, 6/1/6/1. You can see right here on July the 10th, 2025, somehow, and nobody in the world will be able to explain this, but somehow the judge, Megan Marshall, was provided notice of Mr. Farley's eligibility to actually enroll in drug court probation. Yeah. And because of that ability to enroll in drug court probation, you can see that on July 22nd, 2025, Mr. Farley changed his plea from not guilty on these three charges to guilty on these three charges. And just like his last arrest, when he changed his plea, he was sentenced the next day. So if that rings true with this arrest, then on 7/23/2025, Farley's going to be sentenced to 2 years of drug court probation. Coincidentally, it'll be on the exact same day that Brian Kohberger is sentenced for his plea agreement as well. June 1st, the secret plea agreement was done. They arrest Farley the same day. The last nail in the coffin denial of the motion to continue on June 26th, same day Farley is bound over for district court. And then I'll be danged if he isn't changing his plea and being sentenced on the exact same day as Brian Kohberger. Now, drug court eligibility is for people that get in trouble and they give them a chance to be on probation and turn their life around. Mr. Farley has been arrested now 3 times in less than 3 years, twice for trafficking, once for 2 counts of possession of a controlled substance. He's literally just got out of the penitentiary less than 2 months ago. And from the time that he was arrested on June 1st, his deal is done and he's going to be sentenced on July 23rd. That's less than 2 months. Once again, one of the fastest times in history through the judicial process, all the way to probation. Rhodes, I just showed you, was arrested in March of 2024. She still doesn't have a trial date set, and it's July of 2025. Farley's already through the entire system and is about to be sentenced to probation. I can't make this stuff up. Now, here's where it gets really strange. This is Mr. Burrows. And again, he was arrested on March the 12th, 2024. Serious charges with a serious criminal history. And he was on probation when he was arrested this time. But drug trafficking and METH, well over 1.5 pounds. Unlawful possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Controlled substance possession, paraphernalia, controlled substance possession of Mary Jane. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that looks like 3 felonies, a misdemeanor, and a felony with a 10-year minimum. Now, that was March 12th, 2024. Here's something that's kind of strange, though. March 13th, 2024, ex parte order. Judicial Officer Nolte, filed under seal. Ex parte order. So he's arrested on the 12th for all these charges, and somehow the very next day, he was given an ex parte order by the judge, filed under seal. How does somebody get arrested and get in front of a judge that fast and do it without the prosecution being present? That doesn't sound right to me, does it to you? That's probably why Meade and Uppenauer busted out of prison just 5 days later and drove 5 hours straight to Burroughs' front door where they picked up Mr. Monty. So there is a very big red flag right there. But it doesn't stop there. He was bound over to district court on August 15th, 2024. So arrested in March, bound over in August. And Farley would have already been, through the whole system 3 times by the time that Burroughs is even just bound over. But what's interesting is when you go through the documentation and you get to March 6th of 2025, there is a strange request for discovery in the Burroughs case. And you can see under the comment, it says state's request for discovery, disclosure, and alibi demand. The state is asking Burroughs to provide an alibi. I'm going to show you how this is in no way related to his charges that this is popping up under. But I cross-referenced that with the Koberger case, and I'll be darned if on March the 6th, 2025, there was a motion to compel discovery filed by the defense. It started out as the 22nd or 23rd supplemental request for discovery, and when the prosecution didn't provide it, they filed a motion to compel discovery under seal. And there was something interesting about it as well. Okay, so you can see here dated the 6th day of March, 2025. Defendant's 7th motion to compel discovery comes now Brian Koberger buying through his attorneys of record and pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 16F. Hereby moves the court to order the state to comply with defendant's 22nd supplemental request for discovery filed January 28, 2025. Each of the requested items that are still outstanding are outlined in the attached 7th motion to compel. Exhibit A, filed under seal with the court. Counsel requests that this motion be set for hearing in order to present oral argument, evidence, and/or testimony in support thereof. Requested time is 1 hour. So what could it have been? The 7th motion to compel discovery that really was the 22nd supplemental request for discovery on the exact same day that a discovery request was given to Burroughs for an alibi demand. Idaho Criminal Rule 16F reads, failure to comply. Unless otherwise ordered by the court on a showing of good cause or excusable neglect, the failure to file and serve a response within the time required by this rule constitutes a waiver of any objections to the request and is grounds for the imposition of sanctions by the court. 16F comes into play when a supplemental request for discovery goes unfulfilled and a motion to compel has to be sought. Now, when we go to the charges that Burroughs, that I pulled right from that record, were charged with, him and Rhodes, and you start looking at the state asking for an alibi demand, and you read what happened during this arrest, and you know that there's no reason to ask Burroughs for an alibi. 2 Julietta residents already on probation have been arrested for allegedly trafficking narcotics. The case began on Friday afternoon when a probation officer and a Latah County Sheriff's deputy conducted a residence check on 53-year-old Tanya Rhodes and 50-year-old Michael Burroughs at their shared home on Main Street. According to court documents, authorities allegedly found nearly 1.5 pounds of METH along with COC, pills, Mary Jane, and paraphernalia during the search of the home. Rhodes and Burrows were arrested on several charges, including trafficking, probation violations. Rose was arrested for trafficking in the fall of 2022, and she was found with a pound of METH then. The pair made their first appearance in LIEDAHO 2nd District Court in Moscow on Monday. So the sheriff and a probation officer goes to Burrows and Rhodes' residence. They're there with a bunch of narcotics, and they arrest them. So what would they need an alibi demand for? It's not too hard to figure out. 16F, motion to compel, 6th day of March 2025, 6th day of March 2025, request for discovery, state's request for discovery, disclosure, and alibi demand. That was the Kohberger defense team making the prosecution follow through with getting a alibi from Burrows. Is that not crazy? Doesn't stop there, though. When we go to Burrows and his case record on, we got this date again, June 26, 2025. There was an order issued in his case. What was it? To vacate final pretrial and trial and set status, Megan Marshall. So something happened on June 26, 2025 to vacate his pretrial and his trial, and they're going to set a status for it. This cannot be a coincidence, because when you jump over to, like I just showed you in our Kohberger case on June 26, 2025, redacted memorandum and decision and order on defendant's motion to continue, that was the nail in the coffin. Wait a minute, it doesn't stop there. You telling me that Meade and Uppenauer both on June 25, 2025, subpoenas were issued for both of them? They issued subpoenas in their case. But then on June 26, 2025, on both of their cases, even though they're tried completely separate, they both got notices for amended indictments. That means their cases are done as of June 26, 2025, same as Brian's, same as Burrows. I can't make it up, folks. But that's not all. I'm going to show you right here where they're going to try to hide it all from everybody, but they really messed up because I was on to them a long time ago. Now, when we go through most of this, because Uppenauer was not represented by Ann Taylor, there wasn't much going on in his case at all. Meade's case, though, it was full of things. On February 26, 2025, y'all probably remember me bringing this up 10 or 15 times, that there was a subpoena issued in his case, which you could see in his case summary, 2/26/25, subpoena issued. Now, I thought it was interesting that on the same day, the defense filed a motion to house a material witness in Idaho, which turned out to be his brother Cody. So subpoena issued, demand to house material witness in Idaho, both on February 26th. And then I pointed out that on February 28, 2025, just 2 days different, there was a mysterious subpoena issued in the Kohberger case. And you can see right here, I've got the document that I'm sure glad I made copies of, because you can see on 2/28, subpoena issued. It was not set to be sealed, but it never hit the court dock. We never got to see that one. It just went from 2/24 to 2/28, subpoena issued. Then 2/28, there was an order temporarily sealing something. But here's what's egregious. That never hit the actual docs, but it stayed on the case summary. I just pulled the new case summary in the case. Every other doc seems to be in place, but on 2/28/25, where this subpoena that was issued was, it's no longer on the Kohberger case summary. They removed it so nobody got to see it. And I will prove it for you right now in real time. Remember this: 2/24, motion in limine, 2/28, subpoena issued, 2/28, order. That should still be on the Kohberger case summary. but it's not. They hid it from everybody and wiped it off the case record. I think that's illegal. Here we are in the case summary. Look, all these are on February 24th. Let's see, do you see anything in here about a subpoena issued? Motion in limine, motion in limine, motion in limine. Here's an order sealing February 24th filings. Order, motion right here between this motion in limine and this order was a February 26th subpoena that should still be on this case summary, but they tried to go back all the way to February, remove it, and hide it from us. This is how secretive and full of crap this whole thing is. Now, if you think it stops there, you are very wrong. So again, we got on February 26th, subpoena issued, motion to house material witness in Idaho, which is his brother Cody. And again, the same time over here, you can see February 28th, subpoena issued in the Kohberger case. They've made that thing disappear like it was never there now. And then on March the 5th, you have a receipt of defense motion to house Cody Meade in Idaho in opposition there too. He's trying to get Cody over in some kind of protective custody out of that penitentiary in Idaho and somewhere else, but it did not go through. They ended up denying that. And I said all along, I thought that was going to be something that was going to exonerate Brian Kohberger. And then you can see on March 21st, all of a sudden there is a order granting independent analysis of evidence in the Meade case. And it's sealed, of course. But between March 21st and the next thing on his case where they ordered mediation on April 18th, mediation is where an independent party comes in and tries to work out a deal. You can see right in between those two dates, something happened in the Kohberger case on April 2nd. Josh Hurwitz was brought in to the Kohberger case on April 2nd, 2025. So they had an independent analysis of evidence on March 21st. They bring in Hurwitz on April 2nd, and all of a sudden the Meade case is going for mediation. Still nothing in the Umfenauer case, though. Then on March 25th, 2025, in the Kohberger case is where you get Idaho Code 18207, which I've gone over with y'all in detail. That is a psychiatric evaluation that triggers one by the state. And once the state triggers their 18207, that means if convicted, they will be sent to treatment and not to penitentiary housing. Keep that in mind because it's going to be big in a second. Now, 5/19/2025, there is a stipulated motion to extend all deadlines in the Meade case. So right after 18207, less than a month later, they're extending all the deadlines in the Meade case. Still nothing on the Umfenauer case. Then, look, on May 27th, there was another order extending the deadlines that, they filed a motion to extend it. They had an order granting extended deadlines. And on that same day, the case was taken under advisement. And not 4 or 5 days later, on June 1st is the real day Brian Kohberger took the plea deal. Now, June 9th, 2025, there's an order sealing defendant's motion in order for independent analysis of evidence. So now we're going to get into Kohberger getting independent analysis of evidence along with Meade. But then we've got June 25th, 2025, another subpoena was issued in the Meade case, and then the very next day they amended the indictment. You can bet that death penalty is gone for Meade. And then out of nowhere on the exact same day for Umfenauer, an amended indictment, June 26, 2025. Case taken under advisement. You can bet the death penalty is gone in the case for Umfenauer as well. So we have on June 26, 2025, Kohberger, the supposed denial of the motion to continue, which ended the case and caused the plea deal. An amended indictment for Meade on the exact same date. An amended indictment on the exact same date for Umfenauer. You think this all isn't one case, folks? Not over yet, though, because remember I said the 18207 on Koberger. Now, when you look at the Meade case and you look ahead on December 19th, there's a motion hearing. And what is it for? Well, it's for Meade's 18207 to be initiated. You can bet Umfenauer's is going to follow suit. None of them will be spending any time in the regular prison unit. This is at least a 4, if not 5-part deal, maybe 6. Oh, look, 6/18/2025. Hearing scheduled. Motion to continue not sealed. Oh, motion for alternate perpetrators sealed. That's interesting. That was that day we didn't get to hear much. Oh, wait a minute. 6/18/2025 for Meade, though. Oh, my goodness. On this date, Meade files a writ for a writ for habeas corpus. Now, he hasn't been convicted of his charge yet, so what is he filing a writ for habeas corpus for? And he had to get an outside attorney other than Ann Taylor to be able to file this writ. And from what I've looked up, Meade can actually file a writ for habeas corpus for another inmate. Are you telling me, Pavarotti, that Koberger's plea deal is going to start on July 23rd and he's going to get out of the state court? Meade's already filed a writ of habeas corpus for Koberger to get him to the federal court, and then Meade and Umfenauer are going to take credit as Aryan Knights for the atrocity. It's coming. Idaho's Post-Conviction Procedure Act. Idaho's Uniform Post-Conviction Procedure Act, 1949-01, explicitly allows for relief based on new evidence of material facts not previously presented that require vacating the conviction or sentence in the interest of justice. It also states that a petitioner can institute a proceeding under this act if they are innocent of the offense. In essence, if an Idaho inmate has credible new evidence that casts doubt on guilt, they can use the state's post-conviction relief process, which may include filing for a writ of habeas corpus to bring this evidence to the court's attention and seek to overturn their conviction. And when it says their conviction, it means whoever they filed the writ for. He can absolutely file a writ for Koberger. That was their plan all along. But just to sum it all up right here, you think this is a coincidence? Koberger's supposed motion to continue, last motion filed, was denied on June 26, 2025. Meade's indictment was amended on June 26, 2025. Umfenauer's indictment was amended on June 26, 2025. Burroughs has an order to vacate his final pretrial and trial and set a status on June 26, 2025. And Farley went ahead and waived his preliminary hearing and allowed himself to be bound over to district court on June 26, 2025. Everybody I've ever talked about being involved in this case got a deal on June 26, 2025, locked in. Take that, Idaho. Now, if you didn't get every single thing that I said, you may need to watch this video again and again and again until you understand it all, because it is huge. And I'm sure there's going to be some folks up there in Idaho that's not too happy with me pointing out what I pointed out in this video. That includes officials and unofficials. I am willing to bet that pointing out the fact that they're already doctoring and hiding things from the case summary and the court records, such as subpoenas that were issued, and I have absolute proof because I took screenshots of it a long time ago. They should have left that one in there. Y'all ought to go to Kathy at the Indie Zone and have her look up that subpoena on February 28th. She'll probably know which one I'm talking about. She'll have it in one of her videos. See what she says about that. But please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Look forward to talking to you after the hearing tomorrow. I may post that thing live and be on there with you myself. I don't know. Pavarotti is out.
Until I